Are we on live? We're live. And yes, here we are on our sofa once more. I'm still fiddling. Yes, if you see movement and you think there's something wrong with your camera, it's not your camera at all, it's me. So there we go. I'm just adjusting it because I want to sit back here. Hold on one second. And good morning, everyone. And yes, let's say good morning to my spirit guide, Greg, who is by my right side, squished between my friend Kay, who was here last week. Say good morning, Kay.
Good morning.
And to my far right, we have Carolyn. Say good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, Carolyn.
So we're here again. And yes, Kay is here again. My sister, as most of you know, left last week. Or was it this week?
No.
Last week. I've forgotten. Time is racing away. Time is racing and racing away. I've still got my marzipan to make. I've still got my mondials to make. I've still got all sorts of things for Christmas to make and getting nowhere, doing nothing. But I'm having a really good time with my friend Kay, who's over visiting from England. And she's here. She'll be here next week too, won't you? So, all right. So we're ready for your questions. We're going to dive straight in here. Excuse me, I'm still got this nasty cold and chesty stuff going on. Can you see my gold jacket? Christmas is coming. I love Christmas. So I thought I'd get a bit of sparkle on. Actually, it was Carolyn who said, get a bit of sparkle on because Christmas is coming. So I did. So I've got a bit of sparkle on and here I am. And Kay's got her, whatever it is, Christmas roses or something on. So we're trying our best to be ready for Christmas. And Carolyn, why don't we go straight to you for our questions?
All right. This morning we have Nate with us already.
Good morning, Nate. How are you?
Nate says, you said that you would comment on my soul sign when I finished reading your wonderful soul signs book.
Oops.
Well, I've got to be an earth warrior as you are. Any comment?
No, I'm glad you sorted it out, is my comment. You see, this is why when people, you know, they get the book and they say, well, can you help me? Can you help me figure it out? And the one piece of help that I can always say, well, two pieces really is follow the golden rule, which is in the book. The golden rule is, first of all, find your soul group. Are you an air sign? Are you a fire sign? Are you a water sign? Are you a, whatever the other one is? Are you air? Thank you. Didn't I say air? So anyway, there you are. There are four. Well, there are five actually soul groups. Most of us do not belong in the fifth group, and those of you who do belong in the fifth group don't need the book because you'll know who you are anyway. And writing about the fifth group is just for the rest of us to understand and to know what that fifth group is about. So, so Nate, excuse me. So. Well, I think that's great if you're a warrior soul. Are you a mature warrior soul, though, or do you need some maturity? That's a hard one because, you know, we earth signs. So the golden rule is find your group. So my group is earth. Your group, obviously, Nate, is also earth. So you followed the rule. When you follow the rule, it's easy. It's so difficult for people who don't follow the rule. And they want to go through the book and just check out all the soul signs that there are and read through and what they're like. And, oh, that's me. Well, no, that sounds like me. And that sounds like me. But if you follow your soul group, find your soul group first, then you've only got 3 soul signs to choose from. One of them is immediately not you. And the other 2 you need to think about and you need to pay attention to, which is what the book's about, because it's about you finding you. Learning about you, understanding about you, but then also learning about your family, learning about your friends, learning about all those other people in your life, and learning about why there are people that you really get on with and why there are people who you do not get on with at all. I have my friend Chris, I don't know if she's listening in today, but my friend Chris is definitely an earth sign without a doubt. And she was definitely, she thought, a warrior soul, absolutely thought she was a warrior soul, until she went through and I went through things with her. Once she found out what she thought she was, well, it turned out she wasn't a warrior soul, she was a hunter soul. Nothing wrong with that at all. But, you know, fine, it's great. It's a great thing to be. There's no negatives in any of these things except the negativity that we as human beings bring to the character traits that we have, and that, you know, we allow ourselves sometimes to get carried away in certain areas with certain situations. But a warrior soul, a mature warrior soul, will know the difference between being bossy and being assertive. And certainly when I was a kid, and it's being mature doesn't mean age, by the way, it means maturity of mind and heart and soul. But when I was a kid, when I was younger, it was definitely bossy. I mean, no two ways about it. But that's what a warrior soul tends to be, and a hunter soul. I mean, in fact, all earth signs tend to be a bit bossy. But when you mature, stop nodding your head, Carolyn over there. She works with me. She
and my husband's a hunter.
And so our husband is a hunter soul. So he's bossy, right?
Yes.
I'm not bossy, am I?
You can be. In a nicer way than my hunter husband.
I like to think of myself as much more assertive than bossy, but there we are. Depends on your point of view. But Nate, so my comment to you is, I'm so thrilled that you found out who you are, and now you're going to be finding out and searching out the people who are around you, the people that you work with, your family, and so on and so forth. And that is going to really give you a serious insight. I'm being very serious now. It's going to give you a really serious insight into why there are people that you can get on with very easily and why there are other people you don't gel with. And instead of being judgmental about those people, you suddenly find, because of this insight, you can understand them, and with understanding comes tolerance and forgiveness. So, you know, that's the next stage to this. You find out who you are, then you find out who the other people are, and so on and so forth. I'm just thrilled to bits that you love the book. So keep working on it and keep working on you. And I'm glad, you know, wow, you're just like me then. What can I say? We warrior souls are brilliant. What can I say? What is Kay? Kay's definitely a water sign, and she's an old soul. So we get on really well because she is my most compatible mate. Not that we're mates.
That's a way to make a headline.
Well, actually, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I love women, but not to that extent. Why did we get on with it? But in England, we call a friend a mate and never think any more about it, don't we? We just, you know, we're good mates.
I wasn't realise what it meant here.
Doesn't mean, you know, anything more. But no, the reason we've been friends for how many years? Over 20. Oh gosh, over 20 years. And good friends. And we laugh so much when she's here. She's got a great sense of humour. Sorry, I'm talking about you as if you're not here, but she's got a fantastic sense of humour. And we laugh. We see the funny side of all sorts of things. And just for the record, I'll tell you what broke the ice with us. I shan't tell you the whole story, but it wasn't us, is what I'm going to say. It wasn't us who farted. It was someone else who farted, but we could not stop laughing for the whole rest of the day. In fact, the rest of the week, and it broke the ice between us. You see, you know, farting is not a bad thing. It's just I always say, well, my grandson has Brussels sprouts. I tell him we're having a farty party down there, and he laughs. He thinks it's funny. It's British humour, people. All of those of you who are reaching back and say, oh my God, she said the word fart. No, it's a perfectly normal thing to say. But this is what broke the ice between Kay and I. And this is why for over 20 years, probably almost 23, 24 years. Is it?
About 27.
27 years. Oh my goodness. We've been friends for 27 years when we were both young things, right? She's younger than me, but we were both young things at the time. And the reason we've been friends for all this time probably has a lot to do with the fact that I'm an earth sign. Kay is a water sign. She's my most compatible. We get on together. We understand each other. She feeds me. I feed her, etc., etc. So, you know, soul signs is great. I don't know how we went from soul signs to farting, but I think it's time for another question.
We have a great question along soul signs.
Okay.
Sarah.
Go ahead. Good morning, Sarah.
Are water signs more drawn to areas of water on Earth, fire signs to fire, earth signs to forests and such?
Not necessarily, but it could be. Kay, what do you think
Interesting.
about that?
Interesting question, though.
Yeah, it is.
It is
But what do you
really-
think about
The
it?
fact is, I'm actually quite afraid of water. I swim to stay above it, but I do like water, and it's nice to be near. But
You helped me get over my fear of
Yeah.
water in Hong Kong when we were in
To
Hong
swim.
Kong together.
See, you're an earth
Yeah.
sign. You're more. You have
Yeah.
a natural fear of
Yeah.
water because that's not your.
Well, I haven't. No, I have a natural fear of water because what my mother did to me
Oh.
when I was a
Oh.
kid got nothing to do with it, with the
soul.
soul sign part of things. No, I just got that natural. We'll not go into that. We'll not talk about what she did.
I'm a water sign, and my nickname when I was a small
Let's
child.
put this camera coming in here.
Hello. My nickname when I was a child was Guppy because I
Really?
love to swim. And I moved here 23 years ago, and I've been back to New Hampshire once.
So there you are then. So
Yeah.
you are
For
a water
me,
sign and
I'm
drawn to
definitely-
water.
Yep.
I do like the forests and the lakes. I love walking in the woods. And when I was in Vermont, we had 70 acres of woods and pathways all through and so on. And it was beautiful. And I absolutely loved it until the ticks became so bad that I wouldn't go in anymore, which is a shame. So I don't know if maybe there is something in that, Sarah. I don't think it's necessarily the case. But certainly water signs are able to ebb and flow, to move, to go around things, to make things work much more easily and much more readily than certainly fire signs and certainly earth signs. So it's an interesting question. Okay, let's move on. Carolyn's here frantically with the.
We just had a cute comment from Dean saying, "Oh, Carolyn, I used to feed guppies to my angelfish."
It's not a cute comment at all. Good morning, Dean. It's not a cute comment at all.
Deborah is here with us today too.
So I know what to threaten you with. If I think you're not doing your job properly, I'll feed you to the angelfish.
Oh, Jesus! There's
Oh,
a
I
pond
have-
right out back. with a
There
deer
is
in it. Yeah.
there's a lake out there. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
All right. We've got an interesting question from Maggie.
Can I just come back to this? I've just had a thought.
Sure.
Just on with Sarah's comment. I actually think that we might be more drawn to what feeds us. So an earth sign might be more drawn to water because water is what feeds us. A water sign might be more drawn to the woods and the forests and so on because it's what feeds them. Just a thought. It's just a thought that I just suddenly popped into my head. I think Gregor might have had something to do tapping me on the shoulder there, but it is a thought that we instinctively look for what feeds us and what gives us what we need on a spiritual level. So it is possible, but not always probable, but it is possible that an earth sign might be much more drawn to water than a water sign, actually, if you get my meaning.
Yeah. I think for me personally, I enjoy being near the water, but I love to go out in the forest and explore. We had a ginormous garnet rock. I'll get back in here. A garnet rock behind our house when I was a child, and my stepbrother and I used to go out there with hammers. We thought we were going to be rich chipping away the garnet. But we explored those woods for hours and hours and hours. And to this day, I enjoy it.
Which you probably are not realizing,
Right.
but it's feeding you.
Yeah, I can totally
It's
see
feeding
that.
you. So, I think, yeah.
Very
So there you have it. Never thought of that. Very interesting question, Sarah. Thank you. It got me thinking. And anyway, let's have our next. Shall we do the next question here? Do we
Sure.
have another question?
We do. Would you want to say hi to Deborah and Clem? They're both with us today.
Hi, Deborah. Hi,
Hi,
Clem. We say hello to everybody. Yes.
And let's see. Maggie's question. Looking for something.
Good morning, Maggie. I love Maggie.
She said she's been really busy, so she might not be live, but she always watches after.
Okay.
Looking for something that might help a friend. Her mother passed away a year ago. The mother had special gifts of knowing. The strongest was knowing when someone was passing on. My friend's children adored her parents, who are now in heaven. My friend's daughter was on a path to become a lawyer, graduating law school, and just had to take the classes for the boards. And she was offered a great job to help to pay for taking of the boards. Well, since the passing of my friend's mother, the daughter has stepped off the path she was gone after going to a class on spiritual healing, connecting, etc. The daughter now believes she has special gifts to heal people's auras, spirits, and has been doing spells with candles, almost burning the house down. Spells. She grabs the person's hands, throws back her head, flutters her eyes closed, and announces the person needs healing. My friend is very worried about her daughter. Is this the daughter trying to be like her grandmother, announcing that she has gifts of her own? I've asked my friend if this class her daughter went to had one of those leaders who will lead the way, but she can't get much out of her daughter.
Okay, it seems to me that there may be some issue with the loss of the grandmother, but it also seems to me that talking of soul signs, we might have a little fire sign on our hands, because let me tell you the one thing that you do not need to do as healers. You must never, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, understand, never should do when you're giving healing is to show any dramatics or any, of your own emotions. This is about your patient. It's not about you. It's not about how you're feeling. It's not about what you're about. It's about your patient. And the healer, and I teach my students this all the time. And in fact, I've had students who have come with me to visit a patient in the hospital. I mean, my students come with me all the time wherever I go for healing. And if a student starts to cry, because we do see some pretty tough stuff when we go out as healers. It's not about just holding someone's head. Certainly not. If she were my student throwing her head back, I'd kick her out the door, because it wouldn't be about the patient. It would be about the person themselves. So, so I encourage my students, if they cannot handle a situation, if they get emotional, if they start to become emotional, they need to leave the room. They need to walk away, gather themselves together, come back if they can in a calm way, or stay out of the room, because the patient is dealing with enough without someone else's dramatics. Now, I've seen this before. I've been to a spiritualist church, a local spiritualist church, where had I had my way, I would have stood up and grabbed the guy by his collar and said, "Oi, come on, you need to put some proper training here. You need to know what to do," because his arms were everywhere, his voice changed, he sort of had all this drama. And no, I don't buy it. So sometimes we do this because it's about ourselves and we need. And so when I'm saying this about people, I'm not criticizing them. I'm saying these people have an issue. These are the people who probably need healing. These are the people who need to, they're drawing attention to themselves for whatever reason. And, so what I'm going to suggest in this situation is find out what this girl really needs. Also, I mean, if it truly is the case, and I'm not judging here because maybe someone got the wrong end of the stick, but if it truly is the case that she's joined a group who are telling her that she should give up her career and so on and so forth, right away that it's not real, because right away as a healer that for someone to go forward, especially when they're enjoying what they're doing, and to achieve, if this girl became was it a lawyer she was studying to be? If this girl became a lawyer, think of all the people she could help. Think of how much healing she could do, much more so than becoming involved with a small group of people and limiting that experience. If she has just decided, don't want to be a lawyer anymore, that's a whole other thing. And that's fine. But I will tell you this, any teacher worth their salt, any teacher who is real, anyone who is teaching this girl who is real should be stamping on that girl and saying, no dramatics. Your patients don't need your dramatics. Your patients need your calm and your loving and your gentleness. It's not about you, it's about them. And then that way we get grounded. I do remember a student of mine going off in a supposed trance until I trod on his foot and said, enough of that, thank you. I'm a very tough teacher. There's no need for the dramatics, and healing is a very, very special and a very beautiful thing. You know, you don't need all that other nonsense, and it is, in my opinion, it is only my opinion, but it is nonsense. So cut it out. And if you want to be a healer, there are ways to do it, but first of all, do your studies, get your work done, achieve what you need to achieve, because that way you can help so many more people. Okay, do you have anything to say to that? Have you ever seen anyone? This is what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of when we were in Hong Kong, Kay and I, we were given this room and people came for healing. Do you remember how many people there were? They came hundreds. I mean, it's like, they just, you know, it's just, they just came from everywhere. I did a radio show. And there was a young woman who'd been told that she got 2 evil spirits in her head. Do you remember? Battling for each other. She was, what was she, 30 or something? And her husband brought her, and her family came, and this girl was going crazy because she really believed that she got these 2 forces battling in her head. And I said to her, who on earth told you this? And they told me, you know, some healer or something. Come on, you know, use your common sense. Use your common sense. But when you're not well, or if you've got issues, you're extremely vulnerable.
I think that calm if you're in like a big room where you're healing people, that calm spreads anyway, and that in itself puts out a healing energy.
Yes, it does. You're right, it does. And Case, you've seen it. And Case, help me with this. You don't need the drama, and you don't need all this, you know, spirits coming at you, and some spirits entered into you. If somebody starts telling you that, please do yourself a big favor, get up and walk away. Don't believe in that nonsense, because it's nonsense, and it's all about the person who's telling you this wanting to impress you with their ability, or wanting to impress you with their knowledge for whatever reason. When you're a healer, you do it quietly. I can assure you, do it quietly. You don't tell people, unless, of course, you open a center. But you don't. When I opened my center, I walked very quietly and very calmly through. You've seen me, Kay. We don't do all of that stuff. We don't do it. It's not necessary. And remember, you know, Jesus was a healer. There are many, many, you know, examples we have of ancient cultures and healing, and none of them have that throw back my head and woo-woo stuff. I have such an intolerance for the woo-woo stuff. Carolyn's laughing. Would you like to say anything about my intolerance? Come on.
She really does not like any of the woo-woo stuff.
What I call woo-woo, which is sort of all of the nonsense, the dramatics, and
the planets aren't aligned, and so your whatever is off of kilter, and yes.
Well, you know, there is.
But you don't use it as an excuse. It could be
the truth is
true.
The truth is that the planetary system and the Earth and it does affect us. But can we talk about it in down to earth terms? Not all this jargon,
foo-foo stuff,
woo-woo, all this jargon and stuff that people like to use. Can we just see it? Nobody likes me because I'm just down to earth. I'm just such a down to earth person. This subject, this planet of ours and this universe of ours is so amazing. Why do people need to make it more? Or I don't know, you know, I don't know. I don't get it.
Doesn't it sound much more impressive when you say, you know, your axis is off kilt because moon's, you know, in retrograde?
Not to me, because I'm going to tell you what happens when people say it to me. I switch off. That's what I do. I switch off, because whatever the universe is happening, whatever is happening within the universe, we also have, you know, our own energy. We're also able to combat that or join with the energy of the universe to make it work for us as opposed to working against us. There are ways that we can do this, but not if you're going to go off on a tangent and talk and use language nobody understands. We get people, we're grateful, we love to get emails, but when somebody uses a word and I say, I don't know what that means, because I'm so down to earth. And Carolyn says, well, if you don't know, I don't know. We laugh about it a little bit. We look it up and we figure out, we often try to figure out what somebody means. But if you want to talk to me about this subject, can you talk to me in a normal, down-to-earth way? That's the way to get to me. And I will talk to you the same way, in a normal, down-to-earth way, which not everybody likes.
I think we have a person that we know who uses those phrases as an excuse.
Oh yeah, we now know who you mean that.
You know, instead of just saying I'm having a really crappy day, it's, you know, the moon's in retrograde or
Can
whatever.
you say crappy on that?
Yes, you can. They can.
Okay.
Have you watched regular TV
no,
lately?
not really.
Oh,
no.
gosh.
But anyway.
that's a
yeah, you're right.
now.
Sometimes you're just having a bad day for a variety of reasons. Sometimes you're having a bad day because you simply woken up in a bad mood. I didn't leap out of bed this morning. I never leap out of bed these days. I used to, but I don't anymore. And I've wrecked my knee. And it's really painful. I'm sitting here and I'm holding back. Would you know it? No, because even though it's hurting me, you're all going to feel sorry for me now. And even though I've still got this nasty chesty thing and the cough and all the rest of it, you got to get on with it. And your attitude is everything. And if you have a positive and a good attitude, the universe aligns with you and works with you. So don't say, you know, oh gosh, Mars is in retrograde. I don't even really know what that means. I'm sorry to say, but I'm being honest now. I better cut it out before I offend a trillion people. I don't mean to offend you. Just, you know.
All right, we've got Nate.
Down to earth.
Interesting
Down
question.
to earth. Come on, Nate. Let's go for it. It better be a down to earth question.
I was just going to say I'm not so sure it's a
Okay.
down to earth question.
Okay, then. All right. Go ahead.
Tecumseh of 1811 was a great Indian
The what?
seer. Tecumseh
Okay. Yeah.
of 1811 was
Yeah.
a great Indian seer.
Yeah.
Have you or Grey Eagle any message about Kachina or Earth's transition to higher spiritual plane from this less mature one today, which is very right?
No. I don't. Not anything that I could answer. Certainly in the small amount of time that we have. It is an interesting question. If you could put it in more down-to-earth terms, I might be able to help you more. Just saying that to you, Nate. You're lovely. I'm so glad you're part of our group here. But anyway, moving on then.
Okay, we've got Marcella.
Good morning,
Who says,
Marcella.
Good morning, Rosemary. This is Marcella Sheldon's niece from New Mexico.
Oh, really? Okay then.
So good to
Good
see
morning. Yes, and you. What's it like in New Mexico today? Do you remember meeting Marcella? Marcella, the would be the aunt. The Marcella I know would be the aunt.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. All right.
So good to see you and love your teachings.
Thank you.
Does Grey Eagle ever come to you? Oh my goodness. This is Dean's question.
Same one
Dean's.
as they've got, I bet.
Wait a minute. I thought we were talking to Marcella's niece.
Well, we did, but that was all she said was that.
Oh. All right.
It's
So
good to
now
see you.
Dean has a question.
Yes.
Let's go for
But
it.
you're going to find this highly ironic.
I think it's your question.
Yes.
Go
I think
ahead
so.
then. Go ahead. We've been talking about this just this morning then, I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dean.
Does Grey Eagle ever come to you when you are not expecting him? The middle of the night, while swimming, etc. And my question was, have you ever had an instance when a spirit came through to you because they needed your help, completely unplanned and out of the blue?
It is sort of the same question, but it's two questions really. So I'm going to answer you, Dean. Grey Eagle is never unexpected. He's, you know, he's there and sometimes he's not there. But I always know when he's drawing close to me. So I'm never surprised by him. I'm sometimes surprised by the things he might want to talk to me about or that he might want to tell me. But I'm never surprised at the fact that his presence is, you know, always within my sphere. Let me put it that way. So no, I'm never surprised. But yes, he does. We were swimming yesterday, late in the afternoon, and what we were doing. We were talking to, oh, I know what I was doing yesterday. Yes, I tell you what happened yesterday. I was talking to a friend of mine, and it happened that it was the anniversary of his father's first year of passing, and I was just chatting away to the friend. We were talking about, he was helping me to figure out cell phones for my friend Kay, who wants to get a cell phone while she's here, and the next thing I see is father. That was unexpected, but I've got better stories. I'm going to tell you a little story. Would you like a little story? I'll tell you a little story. Once upon a time, it was quite some years ago actually, and I was in a country and western nightclub, and my boyfriend at the time was helping the group who were singing there. We had a lot of fun, and after the evening was over, I was sitting just, you know, on a side there waiting. My boyfriend was helping all the band gather their gear and get the gear together, and a young woman came and sat next to me. I might have told this story before, but I'm going to tell it to you again. So she sat on the seat next to me, and so we're just sitting there, and you know, I said hello and she said hello. I've always been friendly. I've always said hello to people, always say hello to strangers. And so she said hello, and then the next thing I'm hearing, I'm her father, and can you please give her a message? So I'm saying to the father, no, because that's not how it works, because I like people to come to me. I don't approach people, people approach me. And that's a rule I've always had. For whatever reason, I broke the rule this night. So I'm listening to a father who is desperate to get in touch with her, and he started telling me that she'd broken her hand. Well, I looked at her hand. There were no bandages. There was no obvious nothing. There were no signs of anything. But the father insisted and insisted and insisted, and at some point I broke the rule, and I said to this young lady, so, you know, how is your hand now? And she looked at me, and she, what do you mean? And I said, well, I understand that you broke your hand, and it was in a cast, and so on and so forth. And she sort of, her eyes went wide, and she, how do you know? How do you know that? So I said, well, I have your father here, and he's talking to me about this, and I've told her some of the stuff. And at some point she leapt up and she ran off. And I vowed I would never, ever do it again. I would never listen to someone in the spirit world I didn't know, who, you know, we hadn't had no agenda, we hadn't organized this, he hadn't asked. I just had assumed, and rightly I think, because you're going to hear the end of the story, that Gregor must have let him through, because otherwise he wouldn't be talking to me, I wouldn't be listening, and so on and so forth. But anyway, for about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years, from time to time, I would really worry about this young woman, and I would worry that I'd frightened her, and I would worry that, you know, and I would berate myself for having done what I did, because it was, in my opinion, and still in my opinion today, a very unprofessional thing to do. I broke the rules, my own rules. So anyway, so I'm going to say 3 or 4 years later, I was at another country western in a completely different area of the country. I was in England at the time, completely different area of the country, and more local to me. And of course, the last person you'd ever expect to see is someone who you met briefly 3 or 4 years ago in the north of the country, whereas at the time I was in the middle of the country. Anyway, I went in, we were meeting friends there, there was a whole group of friends, and everybody introduced everybody, and we all said hello and so on. And I noticed that there was this woman sitting across from me, and she kept looking at me, and I noticed she kept staring at me. And remember when I first met her, it was in a nightclub, and it was dark, and I didn't see her. I couldn't even have told you what color her hair was at the time. She kept looking at me and looking at me, and she said, I know you. And I said, well, I don't think so. She said, did you ever go to such and such a nightclub? And I said, I did. She said, I remember you. You told me that I'd broken my hand. And of course, I'd remembered this. I said, are you the woman I gave a message to from her father? She said, yes. And I said, oh my goodness. Finally, thank goodness, because if I'd been able to find her sooner, I would have apologized to her. Thank goodness for that. I'm so, so sorry. I should never have done what I did, and I certainly didn't mean to frighten you. And she smiled at me. She looked at me. She's got a big smile on her face. She said, Rosemary, it was the best thing you ever did for me. When I thought about it, once I got over the fear of it, when I thought about it, she said, I've been looking for you for years. I wanted to come back and ask you to tell me more. So that's one complete stranger story. But I've been in pubs and I've been at parties and I've been in different places where someone from the spirit world will come and tap me on the shoulder. I remember standing at a bar once and having somebody insisting, that's my husband. Can you tell him I'm here? No, I can't. No, because the rule is I can't approach you. You have to want to come to me. But I did once, again, break the rule. Not quite break the rule, because we were in a pub and we'd just done a big event somewhere. And the landlady said, oh, are you from that event that's just been going on? And we said, yes. And she said, well, what was it like? What was she? Because what meaning me? What was she like then? Was she any good? And so all my friends who were with me said, oh, yes, she's brilliant. And we started laughing. And she said, what are you laughing at? I said, well, I'm she. I'm that woman, which I'm known throughout the world for being that woman. And she looked at me and she said, well, go on then. So she was sort of asking, I said, go on what? She said, well, go on, really. Go on then, do something then. And I remember saying to her, well, and I described her husband because he was right there in a heartbeat, just waiting for the opportunity. And I said, well, you've got a man. And for whatever reason, I usually say, standing behind you. But for some reason, because it was very close in the pub, and a lot of people, it almost looked as if it was sitting on a shoulder. And so I said, and I can see your husband, and I told her his name and how he died and everything. So she said, well, you are right. That is my husband, and that was his name, and he did die that way, but he's not a bloody parrot. In other words, don't tell me he's sitting on my shoulder. So that's another funny story. But yes, it happens all the time. But I learned my lesson with the woman that I thought I'd scared to death. And even though she did come back, and even though she said it was the best thing ever, you've got to be, when you're doing this work, you do have to be very responsible and very aware that you can really frighten people, and you can frighten people away. So I try very hard not to do that. There are exceptions sometimes, but I try hard not to do it. All right, next question.
Okay. Let's see.
And by the way, Kate, you've seen me do it lots of times, haven't you? We've been in a bar, in a restaurant or something. Yeah. Someone comes up to talk to us. And what happens?
Dean's asking, does having a few...
Hold on one second.
Oh, so sorry.
Well, I'm first aware of your eyes, because sometimes when you first meet you, it can be disconcerting because you're talking to you and your eyes are always looking to one side. And
Really?
Yeah. Because at first I notice it now, but it's not strange in the way that it was at first.
You're used to it, yeah.
But then I think, oh, there's somebody here.
People say, I've never seen it myself, but people say it's almost as if my eyes start to go distant and back in my head a little bit. Is that true? Very weird. I'm very weird.
Your eyes definitely change.
Yeah.
And your focus goes
to somewhere else.
Yeah.
Interesting. So there you have it. All right, go on. Dean says.
Actually, I think you just answered this question in last week's show, but it's okay. Does having a few drinks affect how you would receive messages from the spirit world?
Is he asking me personally or anybody in particular?
No, you personally.
No. A spirit's a spirit, whether you're drinking it, whether you're talking to it. Just couldn't resist.
I think maybe,
couldn't resist it. Sorry.
Maybe he means like, are you more relaxed and therefore?
No.
Okay, we've got Nakia.
Oh, what gives you the impression that I drink, Dean, is what I want to know.
She does.
Not all the time, though. We only had one vodka tonic. Two. We had two small ones we did last night. And I did make margaritas.
All right. We've got Nakia.
Good morning, Nakia.
Asking, I took a test for a job at work for school. Did I pass? And we have Gloria asking, can you pick up over your live chat? So I think they're both basically asking.
Can I pick up?
Can you read? Can you pick up, you know, loved ones through this kind of venue? Is what they're asking.
Well, first of all, I don't pick up anything. If I'm going to see something or hear something, yes, I can do it in this kind of a venue, absolutely. We try not to, because we have so many questions and so many people to get to. So, you know, I always say to people, look, if you really need a consultation, whether it's with me or someone else, you know, save up and find somebody really good, because it is worth it at the end of the day. Would you agree, Kate?
Yes.
It's worth it at the end of the day.
100%.
And but make sure they're good. Make sure it's somebody who's good, somebody who has good reputation and so on. Anybody who's good, they'll tell you if they can't do what they say they can do, they'll give you money back, because we offer it. I offer it every time to people when people book with me. If this is not working for you, if this is not right for you, then obviously we're going to reimburse. We don't charge for something that we can't do. So be discerning when you look for someone, you know, be discerning and find someone who's true. But yes, you know, and often, you know, as has happened on this show, Gregor will sometimes, as we're talking, Gregor will sometimes tap me on the shoulder and he'll have some input and he will be able to tell us something, or even give us a message from someone, right, Carolyn? We've done that on many occasions. So, yes, it is possible.
We've got Clem who asks,
good morning, Clem.
why am I so oblivious to the spirit world? Since my parents died within the last 4 years, I look for signs and I don't seem to be getting any.
Oh, darn. Well, there are a variety of reasons why people are not. I don't think you're oblivious to the spirit world, because you wouldn't be asking this question if you were oblivious to them. I think what you mean is, why can't you see or sense or be aware, etc., etc. Well, sometimes that happens for a variety of reasons. It could be that you're trying too hard. It could be that you're still in grief. It could be that you simply don't know how to listen. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. My advice to you would be, find 10 minutes in every day, 10 minutes only, that's all you need. Sit yourself down, switch off the phones, switch off the computers. Doesn't matter where you go, as long as you're not disturbed for that 10 minutes. Make sure that no one can come knocking on your door, etc. And you sit down, and then you say to whoever it is, and I'm assuming it's your parents you'd like to connect with, so you sit down and you say to them, you know, you can say it in your head or you can say it out loud. It doesn't matter, because our thoughts, it's all energy that's going out into the universe. And your parents will be around, I'm sure, and they will hear, whether it's your thoughts or whether it's your words, it doesn't matter. So you say to them, you sit down and you say, okay, I've got 10 minutes. I want to spend 10 minutes with you. And it would be lovely if you could join me, but it's also okay if you don't want to. But this is my 10 minutes to spend with you. And the thing you don't do, you do not say, show me a sign, give me a sign. You do not force or push your wants or your needs onto them. All you say is, if you'd like to be here with me, I'd love it. And then you shut up and you pay attention. And it might take you a week, it might take you a month, it might take you a year, but I'll guarantee at some point, if you do this and you don't, this is the secret, you don't put pressure on them. You don't put pressure on you. You just have that 10 minutes to just sit quietly, accept that they're there, or if they're not there, they're busy doing something else. But accept that at some point, if you do this every day, at some point they're going to be there with you. And then just pay attention. Pay attention to the smallest of things. Pay attention if you see a shadow cross the room. Pay attention if you feel someone, it's almost like a feather-light touch of someone stroking your face. Pay attention if your head starts to itch for no accountable reason. Pay attention. And you simply say to them, if that's you, I'm thrilled to bits and I'm happy that you're joining me. The more you do this and the more you don't put pressure on you and them, the more you will see, and the more you will be able to discern. And at some point, you will know that it is them. You will just know. Apply the 3-time rule. If it happens once, pay attention. If it happens twice, pay a bit more attention. And if it happens 3 times, accept that the probability of it being them is, is high. But don't put yourself under the pressure. Try not to get anxious. I think you're doing perhaps a little bit too much. You're pushing and you're forcing, and we all do it. Give me a sign, show me a sign, switch the lights on and off. I mean, I've done it myself. I know how, when you're really eager or you really want to connect with someone in the spirit world, how much pressure you can put on them and you. So get the pressure off. 10 quiet minutes every day, and sooner or later, I promise you, sooner or later, you will see them, or you will hear them, or you will feel them with you. I promise you that.
And you said something to me right after I first started working with you that is so simple, and it makes so much sense that I think people forget.
Let's come into camera here.
People that loved you here on earth, they still love you.
Yes.
They want to be with you as much as you want
to be with them.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, just fall back on that common sense that they still love you. They still want to see you.
They've not disappeared.
Right, exactly.
They've not disappeared, and they've no intention of disappearing. But sometimes we put so much pressure on them. We're so needy with our wants and needs, naturally so, because we're grieving. So not criticizing anyone for the neediness, but sometimes it overrides our common sense. So just to sit with them for 10 minutes, put a timer on, 10, 15 minutes every day, and then that's it. And the thing is that you know that you've spent time with them and for them. That's all that should matter. And sooner or later, they will make themselves known to you. That is a promise I'm making. Don't make many promises. Mm-hmm. When I make a promise, I keep it. So that is a promise I'm making to you. But you have to do this on a daily basis and not try to force the issue or to push the issue. So whatever anybody else has told you what you should or shouldn't do, go into meditation, do this, that, and the other. You only need the 10 minutes, that's all. 10 minutes quiet time, that's it.
We've got your good friend, Chris.
Morning, Chris.
Chris says, I think Rosemary looks beyond when she is communicating.
Beyond.
Excuse me. She is the kindest, most gentle person when giving messages. Hold on. But she is also the most direct and honest with someone needing that firmness, which is so true. And then she
are you speaking from experience, Carolyn?
Yes, my own, and just, being involved in all this. And she also says, if we could please add Mark to the healing list.
Sure.
A mysterious muscle and exhaustion situation, and he has been hospitalized.
Okay, certainly. We can certainly put him on the list. I'm going to ask my friend Kay, right? Am I tough, Kay? I mean, have I ever been tough on you?
Absolutely.
But the next question is, did you need it?
But for the right reasons.
Right. Yep.
You have, it's the same with children. Tough love is the best sometimes.
It's true. That's true. I'm laughing. I thought you were going to be nice and say, I thought she was going to be nice and say, no, you really love me. You're so sweet. And all the rest of it. Anyway.
There have been a few times that I've thought, I wish I could just be like Rosemary and tell somebody like it is. In that nice way.
Yeah.
Where they get it.
I think it's, some people are very good with words and have a way of saying unpleasant things in a pleasant way. And it's a gift that some people have.
I think it's not so much words as your actions, your tone of voice.
I think it's a combination.
I think it's where you're coming from. If you're coming from a bad place, a judgmental place. I can remember a student of mine once, and she was a fire sign, and she was bit dramatic, let's say that, from time to time. A nice person, very nice, but she was a bit dramatic. And anyway, I remember once she would sort of sometimes try to take over the classes, especially if I was not there, and other students would resent it a bit and tell her so. And I remember her crying once to me and saying, why is it that you can say something to someone and they appreciate it, and why I say something to someone, I can say the same thing to someone and they get mad with me? Well, it's where you're coming from. It's the place that you're coming from. If you're coming from a place of gentleness and kindness, you'll say something, and even if someone takes offense, they'll go away and think about it, and they'll come back realizing that you didn't mean to offend them, I think. So if you are going to be forthright, which I am always, trying to say what I feel always, just be gentle about it and understand that we're all human beings. So don't be judgmental when you're saying to someone you shouldn't do that, you know, because sometimes stress and what's going on with that person during the day or during their lifetime drives them to do things in a way that perhaps you wouldn't do, or perhaps you think is a wrong way to do it. So just cut out the judgment. And if you want to be forthright with someone, this is what I always do. I always say to someone, you know, whether it's over the phone or in person, I need to talk to you. So can we sit down? I can tell you now, my students and the people who know me dread that. And I say it as nice, I need to talk to you. We need to have a conversation. And they get all nervous because they're not sure what I'm going to say to them. But it always works out well. It's just that they know that something's coming, the truth is coming, and do they really want to hear it? So they do get a bit nervous.
Here's confirmation, because Chris says, all of us healers both dreaded it and we're thankful for being in the hot seat.
The hot seat. That we're thankful or weren't thankful?
We're thankful.
Yeah, we always had a hot seat.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. She's also said, I've always appreciated the way that Rosemary drives us to being better than we are, aiming towards what we can be. All right, moving on.
Is this because it's Christmas and I've got my gold jacket on? We're having a Rosemary Love Fest here, because then I can assure you, I can be just as mean and just as horrible as everybody else could be, just not very often. Right?
All right, we've got Connie.
Everybody has.
We've got Connie, who asks, does deja vu have a part in loved ones sending you signs or messages?
Yeah, good morning, Connie. Yes. Now, yes, I think so. Scientists will tell you, they explain deja vu as being, you're amazed at my knowledge here, aren't you? This amazing knowledge that I've acquired over all these years. A scientist will certainly used to, talk about deja vu and say that, and this is a fact, that our brain will every now and again it'll click off for like a split second or something, and then we come back, and that's how the brain works, that it gives itself a little respite. It'll shut off and come back on, shut off, come back on, a bit like the computer, right? And in that moment where the brain is switching off, we see something, it registers on our subconscious, and when the brain comes back again, we think, oh, I've been here before, I've seen this before, but it's the brain, the switch off thing that's going on. So that's how scientists explain it, and I'm sure that it's right some of the time, but I'm also sure that very often we have, we have this feeling of, I've been here before, I've heard this before, I've seen this before, and it's much, much more than the brain switching off. It's an experience we've had, or an experience that we know of, or that we've experienced at some other time. So, I don't discount deja vu, is what I'm saying.
Okay, Deborah, and this is Deborah. She's spoken with you,
Deborah,
from the solar company.
Good morning, Deborah, who had a consultation with me. Are we allowed to say that? Because
I wasn't going to say
it. It's private.
Last time you slapped me, so I wasn't going to say it, and not literally slap me. Everybody, don't worry.
No, I didn't really hit her. No, felt like it's a time or two, but I didn't really hit her. Yeah. But good morning, Deborah. How are you doing?
Well, my mom has some health issues since Dad passed. I feel very alone trying to help her. Is my dad watching? I haven't had any signs since I moved. My mom moved in with me. Does he know where I am?
Yes, and all of those yeses. And why are you asking questions you know the answers to. If you've had a consultation with me, young lady, you know that your dad is always with you. You know that he's there helping you. I'm very sad that you feel alone, because none of us should feel alone, but we all of us do from time to time, don't we? We all of us do. I mean, Kay, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, but Kay just went through a very, very difficult situation, And even though you had lots of friends around you helping, and even though she had me, because, you know, we FaceTime and so on, you still, there are times when, even though you've got everyone around you, there are times when you do feel, don't you, feel very alone and very lonely and very frightened. So
and night time's always the worst.
Do you find night time's the worst? Yeah, because, well, yeah, the lights are off, you're in bed, and now you're thinking instead of sleeping, and things are going around and around in your head. And I think also, certainly in situations like Kay had, you're thinking the worst of a thing rather than the best of a thing, because you can't help it, because your fear brings all these negative issues forward for you. So I'm worried that you feel alone, and I just want to tell you, Deborah, that whenever you're feeling alone, think of me, because I shall be there in a heartbeat, in my way. It's just one of these things that you're going to have to struggle through a little bit, but of course your dad is always there, and you know that, don't you, young lady? You know, and yes,
she said she just hasn't had any signs.
Well, you know, maybe you just haven't seen them yet.
I was going to say, sometimes if you're trying too hard, you may be even missing some.
Yes, yeah. Because I find there are signs every day if you're looking for them, if you're watching for them, but not. You know, as I said to someone earlier on, don't force the issue. Don't try too hard.
Now she's just kind of being a little silly. She says, I thought maybe because I moved, he couldn't find my new house.
Oh, no. No. You know,
it'll probably help you move in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Well, you know, it is funny because, and it isn't such a silly comment, because I do have people who, they won't change their daughter's bedroom for fear that the daughter won't come to visit them. They won't move house because they feel their son won't find their way to them, and so on. And so a silly Deborah, as you know, that statement is,
you're not alone.
You're not alone in it by any means. And there are people who really do believe that they should keep everything the way it was. And that they should never move, because this is where their son or daughter, especially children, their son or daughter was, and where they'll always be able to find them. But your family in the spirit world will not find you in any physical place. They'll find you in your heart. Wherever your heart is, they'll find you. It's not a question of a place. Remember, you know, we live in a material world. When we're in the spirit world, we're not looking, you know, for the number of the house and which street is this and which street is that. We are connecting with the heart and soul of our loved ones, and so they'll never lose you. They'll always be there with you, always.
We've got Judy.
Good morning, Judy.
Judy says, my daughter lost her husband and high school sweetheart 2 years ago. She is in sorrow every day, even though he tells her it is okay to go on in her dreams. Any advice?
You know, grief is a funny thing. And everyone grieves in their own way. And your daughter is grieving in her way. And you sound very much as if you're supporting her and helping her. Excuse me. Don't try to hurry her grief along, because you won't be able to. She'll find her own way, and she'll find a way to get through this. You know, sometimes people are, you know, they need that time. And as you said, 2 years is a blink of an eye. Let me tell you, 2 years is nothing at all. And if they've known each other from school, and I don't know how old she is now, but if they've known each other a long time, you know, she's going to feel like her other half is not there. So my advice to you would be, you know, she sees him in her dreams, to encourage her to listen to her dreams, to encourage her to believe that he is there with her, and to encourage her to cry, and to encourage her to share her grief with you or with anyone else, to talk about it and to talk about him. So often when we lose someone, everyone thinks that we shouldn't talk about that person anymore because it's only going to upset so-and-so if we talk about it. But the very best thing you can do is to talk about the person you've lost and to bring that person back into your lives in a way of talking and chatting with each other. And when I'm sitting by the bedside of someone who's dying, which I've often done, I'll encourage the family to do the remember when thing. Do you remember when we did this? Do you remember when we did that? It gets people laughing, it gets people remembering, it gets people talking. And people that, when you're experiencing the grief, or when you're with someone who is you're about to lose, go do the remember when thing. Go back in the memory. Remember when you were a kid and you did this and that and the other? We just did the remember when in front of all of you with the farting thing. And the remember when, it's wonderful, isn't it, to have those remember whens? And it helps. So encourage your daughter to do the remember thing. Do you remember when you did this or that? Do you remember when we had fun doing such and such? That's going to help. It's going to help her to talk about it. It's going to help her to express her grief a little bit. But don't push it. And don't say to her ever, it's time you got over this, because that's not the thing to do. Just encourage her to talk about it more. That would be my advice. Do you have any advice there?
No, I think, like you say, it's a very personal thing. And I think talking, if you can talk to people, it helps. It helps a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, then.
Okay. We have got one more question.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. I'm just not sleeping. I'm sick, actually. Really sick.
Yes. You sound really good today.
I do. Sound great. I'm going to be coughing and spluttering once I've got off this show.
You were in bed all day yesterday. Or resting.
It was a lazy day yesterday.
We had a totally restful day yesterday. We did.
Yeah. Okay, Beth asks.
Good morning, Beth.
Why can't, or all, and in quotation, victims come through from the spirit world to help us identify the person or people who are responsible for their demise? Wouldn't this be a fairer civilization?
Well, I don't think life is about being fair. I used to tell my daughter when she was little, when she was even 2 or 3, and she, Mama, it's not fair. Nothing's fair. And I would say to her, and I still say to her today, she's 46 years old, I say, when did I ever tell you that life was fair?
I used to say that to
Did you?
I've never. Who told you life was fair?
Right, because it isn't.
And they've quoted it back at me, I'll tell you.
Samantha's never thrown that one back at me, because I'm never inclined to say it's not fair, because life isn't. Life is about learning, and if it was about fairness, we wouldn't be learning so much, and we wouldn't be having this fabulous experience, and we wouldn't be stretching ourselves, and unfairness is part of our learning and growing. It's part of our struggling with ourselves to come to terms with who we are and what we want to be in the future. So, I hate unfairness of any kind. It's one of my pet peeves. Meanness and unfairness are my 2 pet peeves, because when I was a kid, I was on the receiving end of both of those things almost continually. So I do understand when we talk about fairness, but life isn't fair. It's not supposed to be fair. It's not true that nobody comes through from the spirit world to talk about who killed them, who the murderer was, and so on and so forth. And I've been involved in some cases where we've solved a mystery, or those in the spirit world have helped to uncover exactly what happened and how it happened, and so on and so forth. But I've also been involved with people who have perhaps been murdered, or they've been however they've passed, who, for whatever reason, and I'm not all-knowing and all-seeing, so I don't know all of the reasons why this happens, but sometimes we're not meant to know. Sometimes there's a greater plan in place, a bigger plan in place than we can ever see. So sometimes those in the spirit world do come to us, and they do tell us about, who it was who did this and so on. And sometimes they adamantly refuse, or they will point blank say to me, Rosemary, I don't want to talk about that and it's not necessary. Or Greg will say to me, we're not going there, because the universe has a much, much bigger plan. And we mere mortals here, we only see about that much of it, right? We just see this little bit of it. So I hope that answers that question.
We're going to take one more question.
We are. Yes. One more question. Go ahead.
This is from the Scots. Good morning. Is there something with my home causing so many issues with my family? We are a family of 8, 6 kids. Everyone is struggling with something. Autism, anxiety, stomach issues, and more. My 4-year-old said she doesn't like the house. She wants to move. One night she said a girl was messing with the light in the hallway. No one was there. Just hard. Am I doing something wrong?
What's this person's name?
The Scots.
Oh, so it's the Scots family.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott then, or Mr. Scott, yes. Whoever it is we're talking to here. We'd love to have your name if you want to give it, but I understand if you don't. I don't think you're doing anything wrong at all. It sounds to me as if you've got a huge, huge life and so many different issues and so many different problems. And if you're a family of 8, that means 8 different types of energy, potentially.
Courtney is her name.
Courtney. Morning, Courtney. So you've got all of these different energies going on within your own family. Forget the house for a minute. Forget if the house might be haunted or whatever. You all have got all these different energies on display and so on. And I'm wondering, is there a teenager in the house at all? I'm asking for a particular reason. And if she could say yes or no to that, I can address that too. But, sort of anywhere from about, I'm going to say 11, 12 to, 20 or so. So, it sounds to me that you're doing the best you can do under extremely difficult circumstances. 8 people in the house is a lot of people in the house, right? Okay, I mean, you were brought up with, you had how many brothers? 6. 6 brothers and then 1 girl. So there were 7 plus your parents. That's 9 in the family right there. So right? There's always someone with a problem. There's always someone who's sick or someone who's doing something. There's always, because there are so many of you in the house there. And so you have to deal with these things. And of course you're stressed out and so on and so forth. All right, so that's you as a family. I don't think you're doing anything wrong. Just to ask that question of me shows that you are a good person and that you're trying to do the best you can do. So don't beat yourself up there. All right, as far as the house is concerned and the 4-year-old is concerned, I'm curious about this. Sounds to me like you've got a very sensitive little girl there, and youngsters will often see or sense or feel something that we adults don't necessarily see or feel. If you think that there is some negativity in the house, there's negative energy in the house. I don't know where she lives. If you live near me, I'll come and sort you out. Gladly come sort it out for you. But there are ways and means. You can, for instance, you can have a cleansing ritual if the house has negativity. And I'm asking Gregor, and I'm going to tell you that I think it's not so much the house that has some negativity. I think it's the area that you're in. So
she did say that, yes, her oldest is 19.
Yeah. So, okay, from sort of the age of sort of 12-ish to 19, we all of us have experience. We're sort of, our hormones are going crazy, which affects our energy, which can draw to us all sorts of different energies in the universe. And, very often at that age, we are more susceptible to seeing, to hearing, to sensing, but also to drawing in energy that we perhaps, it might be negative. So, all right, let's get back to the house. My feeling is, I'm asking Gregor this. He has his hand on my shoulder as I'm talking to you about this, darling, because I know this must be affecting you tremendously. I don't think it's necessarily the house, but the area that you're in has some negativity to it. And because you have all these goings on and the teenagers and all the rest of it going on here and all this different energy, I think it's probably encouraging whatever that negativity is in the area where you live. I think it's encouraging that negativity to display itself a little bit. So my advice to you would be to, if you have a priest, they'll come and, or a minister, they'll come and they'll cleanse the house. They'll say prayers and they'll cleanse the house for you. The Native Americans will use sage and they'll cleanse the house. So if you could find...
Got a little detail. She says, I live in a home built by my great uncles. One of my uncles lived here before me. His son went missing. Still never knew what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Was he a teenager?
So there's negativity going on here, and I do feel that you're right to be concerned about it, but I also feel that you can have a cleansing either with a minister, a priest. You know, there are lots of people who do it. If you have a Native American community near you, you can always go and ask someone or approach someone there. Look online to see where you can, you know, where you can find someone who... Be careful. You should not have to pay for this. If someone charges you, it should be minimal. Not talking about you spending hundreds of dollars here. If I live near to you, I come and do it for you for nothing, for free. But you do not have to put coffers in the church funds. You do not have to pay someone to do this an extraordinary amount of money. So don't be taken advantage of. But my advice would be to have your house cleansed. If you can't find anyone to do it, we can do it for you from a distance. You'll have to contact me, and we'll tell you how to do that. And if you've got something like FaceTime or Skype or something like that, even better still, we can help you with it. But my advice is find someone locally if you can, because, you know, we are stretched to the limit. If you can find someone who's good. Do we know where she lives, in what area she lives in?
No, I have not.
I mean, I know of someone in Colorado who can do it for you. I know someone in, I'm trying to think, I know someone in various areas. Are you even in this country? Because I know people in England who could do it for you. But email us if you need more information. We'll try our best to help you. But there is certainly some negativity, but it needs to be cleansed. There's some negative energy there. There is. I don't think it's causing the stomach aches and all the rest of it, but I don't think it's helping either. So I think you've got two issues going on. You've got all this family and all this craziness going on with the family, but you also have some negativity in that area as well. Nebraska. Okay. Well, I don't know anyone in Nebraska, but see if you can find some. If you're in Nebraska, you must have many Native communities around. You must have, because it's a very spiritual area. So look it up. If you need any more help, you need any more advice, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. Email us. We'll do our best to help. Okay. And I think that's it for today, except that I do want to say, I know we're going over time a little bit, I do want to say November 11th is coming up. I always remember my daddy at this point. I remember all of the soldiers all over the world who gave their lives to give us our freedom. Please, it's Monday. Would you spare a minute? That's all it takes. November 11th, at 11 o'clock in the morning. I do my healing work at 11 o'clock in the morning, so we can combine it with our healing prayers. But please, if you could spare a thought for all of those men and women that we lost during any war, all of the wars that we've ever had, people fighting for our freedom, which we are so grateful for. Also for the families of those who lost loved ones. You know, our hearts go out to them as well. It's the one time in the year I always take a moment. Actually, I take the whole day, to be honest, on and off throughout the day, to think of things like this, because I am so very, very grateful to my daddy for certainly for, you know, for all that he did. Fortunately, he came through the war unscathed, except for a bit of shrapnel, unscathed, but not necessarily unscathed emotionally. You know, so our hearts go out to all of those of you, also for the wars that are going on right now, and for the people who are lost or the people who are out there. Our hearts go out to all of you. So I'm asking everyone, spare a moment for November 11th, please, and join with me in saying our prayers and our thanks. weeks. All right. In the meantime, you can see us on Meetup. You can see us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I do my best. I'm not very good at it. Where else do we go? YouTube. Oh, of course, YouTube, as we're doing it here. Kay will be with us again next week as we get even closer to Christmas. So, you know, if you need any questions, want to ask any questions, email us rosemary@rosemaryalaltea.com. And in the meantime,
if you have any questions about Rosemary, you know, from Kay's perspective, that would be a great right in on.
Yeah, if you want to ask Kay any questions about me,
yes,
because we have known each other for almost 30 years. Not sure if I like that idea, but anyway,
sure I do.
yeah. So let's have those questions. And in the meantime, until we meet again, if only I could see that little arrow. I've got it. Get away. Get your fingers away, Carolyn. Go on. In the meantime, please, 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 please have a very, 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 very blessed day.